Happy morning, dear children. How are you all? I hope you are fine, right? So, in today's session, we'll learn about story writing. You all like stories, isn't it? Even everybody likes stories from LKG child onwards. You used to ask stories, your bedtime stories to your parents and others. If they are saying stories, you will be interested in hearing stories, right? So we are going to develop story writing skills now. Shall we? Right. What is actually story writing? Story writing is a work of fiction or imagination. It may be a real story or it may be an imaginary story, fiction or non-fiction, right? That is usually written in easily understandable grammatical structure with natural flow of speech. How you could have heard many stories, how they are saying stories. In the same way, you have to create a story and you have to write on your own. That is what is story writing, right? Story writing is meant to be read at a single sitting, and therefore it should be as direct and as brief as possible, right? You are going to develop your story writing skill in this session. How to write a story. That is what, right? What's your story? Now in this session, what are your learning objective? You're going to set a goal in today's session to think about story writing. You're going to talk about important parts of your story. You're going to think about the settings and the characters. You're going to think about the story plans and openings, settings, events and resolutions, right? Now thinking about settings. So what is a setting, dear? From your 4th, 5th standard onwards, you are learning about settings. Settings is where the story actually takes place. It could be anywhere. For example, maybe a cottage or a haunted house or even a park or a school campus or whatever it is. The place where the story takes place is called settings, right? Here I have given an example of settings. Can you able to see that? Palace, beach, right? A forest, all that. All these are called settings. A place where the story takes place is called settings. Now characters. Characters. 2 to 4 characters are enough for a short story. Here is how to make them sound, really sound, right? So how they feel using adverbs and adjectives, right? For example, 2 to 4 characters we discussed, isn't it? So pirate names, maybe Scared Face Bob, Red Beard, the Horrible Buccaneer of the East. All these are the names, character names. It will be innovative and interesting also. It will be totally different from others. Usually what names you will have, like Rajesh, Suresh, Raja, all that. But when you are creating your own story, you can have super different character names. Now, don't use your friend name in the story. That will create a problem. Really, that will create a problem when you use your friend's name. Use your imagination. Use names that people don't use often, right? Normal names, you avoid using normal names. Use some different names, some imaginative names, funny names, okay? If you are doing any humorous character, you can definitely use funny names. In one film, I heard a name as Singapuli. Okay, so like that you can have different names. Describe what they look, who are they, and how they move, and maybe how they talk also. So all these description about the characters should be present. So example, I feel very tired, angry, excited. Just emotions can be expressed happily, sadly, curiously. So all these are emotional characters that can be given to the characters. Emotions can be given to the characters. Now your small activity now for you, pick two of these characters and write 3 to 4 sentences about them. What is it? You have to pick. I have given nearly 7 characters here. Pick any 2 characters, right? And you have to write 3 or 4 sentences about them. Can you? Yes, you can able to write. I know that everybody like him, isn't it? Who is he? Tell me afterwards, right? Now, how do I start a good story? So I actually decided the settings. I had a character also. Now, how do I start a good story? Now, there are 3 different ways to start a good story. One is dialogue. Dialogues: shark! Shouted the ship's lookout. Hundreds of them. They seem to be heading our way, cried the captain. So these are all the dialogues which they say. Actually it has to be present. See the punctuations within double quotes. Within double quotes. Right? Can you able to see my hands? Within double quotes. Now actions. An ear-splitting whistle made all the pirates leap to attention. At once, they ran in different directions, bumping into one another, scrambling over untidy piles of ropes and tarpaulins, sliding down rickety ladders, all trying to be the first in the queue for lunch. For what they are running? They have to stand in a queue for lunch. For that, they are running like this. Okay. Description. The sea glistened like a sparkling silver mirror. Waves lapped gently at the sides of the saucy Sioux as she sailed silently along in the cool, refreshing breeze, her jolly Roger flag fluttering limply. Seagulls circled overhead, calling to each other. No one would guess what terrible adventure lay ahead for Captain Pegleg and his crew of daring pirates. So this is a description. See how beautifully they are describing. The sea glistened. Glistened is shining like a sparkling silver mirror. Fantastic explanation, description. Sparkling like a silver mirror. Waves, how the waves are. Lapped gently at the sides of the saucy Sioux as she sailed silently along in the cool, refreshing breeze. So the air which is coming also, they are using the adjectives as cool, refreshing, right? Then her jolly Roger flag fluttering limply. Seagulls. Seagull is a bird. Seagulls circled overhead, calling to each other. So, circling overhead, why? It is making a call to each other. No one would guess what terrible adventure they lay ahead for Captain Pegleg. Pegleg is the name of the captain and his crew. Crew is a group of, it's a collective noun. Crew of daring pirates. So, this is how you have to start a good story. So, you are now supposed to write an excellent story. Okay. So, what questions you have to raise in yourself to write an excellent story? Right? That is what we are going to see now. Who, what, how, where, when, and why. What are they? Who, what, how, where, when, and why. First is, the little girl ran quickly to the shop to get some bread at 7 a.m. so her mom can make toast. Who? The answer is little girl. See the color combination which we have given. Light blue. Who? The answer is also in light blue so that you can relate these two words. Who? The little girl. What? To get some bread. How? Ran quickly. Where? To the shop. When? At 7 a.m. Why? Her mom can make toast. Okay. So these are all the answers. So you have to raise question to yourself when you are writing stories. Who, what, how, where, when and why. All these questions has to be answered and the answers will become stories. Right? Use these ways to improve your writing. See, all these are grammatical terms: alliteration, rhyme, onomatopoeia, similes, metaphors. So, alliteration, the same letter, same words will appear again and again. For example, yes, yes. When I ask you in our school also, when we are introducing, we will ask you to introduce yourself with adjectives starting with the same letter. Suppose a girl named Sharmila is there. Smiling Shamila. Yes, yes. Starting with the word smiling is yes. Shamila starting letter is yes. So alliteration is two or more words that starts with the same letter. Example, scary spiders. Yes, starting letter is scary, yes. And the spiders is also yes. Next is rhyme. So when we are reading a poem or when you are experiencing a poem, you definitely make use of rhyming word. Right? So rumble, tumble. Next is onomatopoeia. Words that sound like the thing they describe. Like coins you're tossing. Right? So what is the sound? When you're tossing, the coin is falling down. What is the noise of that coin? Tinkling coins. Tinkling is a noise or sound that was made by the coin. That is what is tinkling. Tinkling coins, jangling or tinkling coins. So these are all the words which are represented to have the sound of the specified things. Okay, similes. Similes you could have read in 4th also, 4th, 5th standard. They compare one thing to another and are introduced as like or as. So like and as are the two words which are used to represent similes. Example, the wet mud was sticky like fudgy cake. So sticky, fudge cake, both are related. They are separate, two different things, but it is connected to a common thing called stickiness, right? Metaphors compare one thing to another, but not introduced by like or as. The wet mud was sticky fudge cake. So indirectly they will say that is what is called metaphor. Similes, we will use the word like. Here in metaphor, we will not use any word as like. Directly we will say the wet mud was sticky fudge cake. You have to assume that mud and fudge cake are related or it is compared. Right? So indirect meaning will be there in metaphor. So that's it, dear. We'll continue in the next session because time is not there and you have to improvise your story writing skills. Right? Thank you, dear.